So our first speaker, guys, get excited. It is Seth Price. Again, he is a mentor to me. He's someone I look to for advice all the time. He has over 40 attorneys under him at Price Benowitz, where he's the managing partner. And he also is the owner of Blue Shark Digital, managing high-end SEO for a lot of law firms nationwide. Seth, why don't you kick this off? And we're going to go into Seth's topic is how this is going to impact practice areas and how you can create an action plan for your practice area. So Seth, take the reins.
Sure. Thank you, Bill, for putting this together. Great to have everybody here at such uncertain times. Ken, friend and mentor, as well as Jay, who I'd like this to be more collaborative. I know this is, I wish I could say, here's your magic box of solution, because at least I don't have that. What I can give you today is perspective, some of the things that we are implementing, and hopefully that you can glean some things that can be useful for your own firms. I come from a unique perspective in this world, in the sense that I have, after the law firm Price Benowitz, 5 consumer-facing practices over 3 states. So looking at things from PI to criminal to trust and estates, immigration, family law, and some beyond that, tracking what we're seeing in the market, both from a intake point of view, from an employee, from the ability to churn cases during this time. That's one side of my house. The other is the 100+ clients of Blue Shark that also vary in practice areas along the same basic areas that Price Benowitz does. And at least from the state of the law firm that I see right now, is that at one end, the sort of the haves and have-nots, the trust and estates world, for those of you doing that right now, seems to be firing as well as anything that I've seen, in the sense that there's still high demand. People are still paying their bills to turn those cases quickly. And that has been, I would say, arguably the greatest growth area that I have seen during this recent turnaround. From my perspective, what we're seeing, family law holding steady at the moment. I think it's going to have troubles in the weeks ahead as money gets tighter. But at the moment, calls are still coming in. People are still actively involved in their cases. On the other end of the spectrum is where Jay and I have commiserated a lot over the last few days, is that the criminal defense bar and practice area seems to be the one short term that has been hit the hardest. The double whammy or triple whammy of courts closing, arrests down, and for people that have payment plans, concerns about payment plans being made. That trifecta is probably giving us the most agita in that area. Stuck somewhere in the middle is Ken's primary focus, although it's expanding by the day, but helping PI lawyers nationally. What I am seeing short term is, that as long as insurance companies continue to operate and settle cases, there's a short term sort of bubble that we are living within, allowing us to operate on a quasi-normal basis, that being work from home, working the cases as hard as we can, making sure that we're not losing productivity and efficiency, but that what we're sort of observing is that the immediacy we're seeing, for the most part, some exceptions, State Farm has not been as helpful. They're never helpful, but that as if the economy continues to turn and those cases continue to settle, the ability to keep that team intact short term seems to be of lesser concern. What PI firms that I'm speaking to nationally are focused on is making sure there's not only funds to operate and cash flow currently, but what are we going to be looking at 9 to 18 months down the road, when there's presumably going to be a drop in activity now. Signing of premier cases seems to be down, and making sure that we take steps to that we're not surprised in the future when those things have hit. One by one, I'd love to first bring in Jay and then Ken. I know you guys are going to do your own presentations, but Jay, I think the people hurting the most right now are on the criminal side because of that sort of trifecta I talked about. What are you seeing in your market? What steps have you taken short term to make sure that you have a viable entity several months from now?
So, in our situation, as a consumer-based practice focusing almost exclusively on criminal defense, we saw an immediate dip. Our state, Connecticut, started sending people home about 10 days ago. We closed for business 10 days ago at 5 p.m. on Thursday. We're now more than a week past that. And one of the first things we had to do was identify the areas where we could sort of claw back on some of our I don't want to call them extra employees, but things that were nice to have, but you don't necessarily need in sort of more constricted times. So we had night and evening intake people, and simply the phones weren't ringing at night, and they don't have functions outside of being intake people. Same thing for my weekend intake team. They weren't getting the calls. So we had to dial back from that. We had a number of law students that were working for us on a number of different projects. And with the lawyers being at home and not being in court, they now have the time to focus on that legal writing and research. So we had to sort of restructure. I hate to say that it was probably the people that were more at risk of losing their positions in a tighter economy were the ones who actually did. But that's exactly what happened in our situation. We had to take a step back and sort of identify where we could save some revenue, given the fact that we were firing on all cylinders in the weeks prior to this hitting. And for us, we saw a 90% drop in revenue over the last 10 days. And I don't imagine it's going to continue. I don't imagine it's going to stop tomorrow because even if it did, people have to ramp back up. They need to have the revenue to be able to afford a private practitioner. So even if this thing they were to find Flintstones vitamins is the miracle cure for coronavirus, everybody take a Flintstone vitamin and you're good. Even tomorrow, people who got arrested the next day wouldn't necessarily have the funds to hire us. So criminal defense really has taken a hit. In order to combat that, we're focusing on two areas that I think we have room to grow. Number one is speeding tickets, right? Because people are still out and working, especially truck drivers, that type of thing. We're getting some business in from them because they are still getting pulled over. Police officers who don't want to necessarily bring in someone who may or may not necessarily need to be arrested can still issue a citation on the side of the road and not necessarily come into close contact. And pardons and expungements is another area that we've done a lot over the years, and that's growing. We sent out an email blast yesterday to about 1,000 former leads in the last 2 years, and got 20 people interested in signing up and working on their pardon, in the last 24 hours. So both of those things are areas for criminal practitioners that can maybe identify and generate some revenue in this downturn.
Right. So for us in Virginia, we've seen gun right restorations skyrocketing, and we're presuming that domestic assault is going to soar. That sort of dovetails into looking at family law, whether or not it's revenue neutral now or down. We're banking on pretty heavy growth in that. If anybody's seen that viral video of A versus B and laughed hysterically, the idea of living at home with people is going to put the family unit under an incredible amount of stress. For us, we've had to dial back intake. What would normally be a call volume is down 50%. That said, what scares me, and I'm not here to fearmonger, I just want people to sort of think about making sure that you don't let data mislead you. What concerns me on the criminal side is that of the calls coming in, they're not the juicy widget that we want, that we normally get, the DUIs, misdemeanors, and assaults with money and rational players. There's a little bit of that, but we're getting a lot more of the people that have waited 3 months to get a lawyer that really don't have funds. And what I'm very cognizant of is, dialing back the labor in order to get through this, but knowing that there's non-monetizable work coming through and not letting the fact the phone is still ringing offset the fact, and really digging deep as to what is monetizable at this point, so that you're not counting on revenue over the coming weeks and months that just isn't there. and making sure that you're looking through the pipeline as to what that's going to mean for staff down the road.
And one thing, Seth, that I think you got to recognize, especially in the context of consumer-facing firms, is that if you let attorneys go during this time, when the courts reopen for us 3, 4, 5 weeks down the line, there's going to be an onslaught of judges looking to accelerate cases to sort of get rid of them and move it through. And if you don't have the staff to be able to handle your cases at that point because you've let them go, you're in a real bind, because now you don't have the talent you need to effectively move the cases. And then that's going to impact your profitability, because you're not going to be able to take on new cases.
Right.
And you're not going to have people who can handle your intake. So,
right. So our key has been, can we keep our core in place? And of the people that may have to go short term or furlough, are we able to get them back quickly enough? And that is a juggle. And I think it's particularly on the fee-for-service areas where we're counting on dollars coming from consumers on a daily, weekly basis, whether it be payment plans or new cases. I'll pivot for a second because, fortunately, at least in our world, the plaintiff's practice, short term, has continued to run. Those of us with a larger volume of practice compared to somebody that might have a few high-end cases. I guess, Ken, the good thing about plaintiff's practice is we're used to not getting money all the time, that there are dips, and you've lived through many of them. What I'd love to hear from Ken, I know you're going to give your full presentation later, but just to kick this off almost as an overture, what are the things that you see law firms looking at? There's, what are you give a pretty broad swath across the country, but from our point of view, we're trying to settle the cases we can most quickly, and things with extensive litigation working, we have multiple states, but making sure that we either have continuances or those courts are closed to be able to reallocate resources to bring in the short-term money and worrying about the long-term litigation later.
Yeah, I think the big deal is what we're seeing across the board is a drop in calls. And the big deal has been in the last 7 days is all the PI lawyers, Social Security lawyers, workers' comp lawyers are trying to go remote because they want to keep running, because, they got the machine to keep moving it. And it depends on where it's high volume or low volume. But that's been the big deal last week. I think this week, I look at this thing in weekly deals. I think the first week it was disbelief and shock. I think this week it's more reality. And I think, the new norm, so to speak. And I think the big deal is we did a big webinar on it last week, and we had about almost 300 lawyers on it about how to go remote. And we had some high-tech people, not me, of course. But that seems to be the big deal. And then the other deal that they're wrestling with is what do I do about my marketing? Do I cut it off? Do I cut it 50%? I'm recommending, you look at it week by week, but I'm recommending like cutting it by 50% and then reevaluate it next week. And employees, if you got somebody, the deal, what I'm saying, if they can work remotely and you can afford to pay them, keep them. If they can't work remotely, then you got to put them on furlough until you get back. It depends, and I'm going to talk about it in my presentation about how your cash flow is and what your cash reserves are. But I think that's the big deal right now. And I think the big deal is I look at it as an opportunity for firms to, I call it clean up and catch up. These projects that you've been thinking about doing, whether it's going paperless or whether it's creating a new marketing plan or whatever, because this is going to pass. I mean, this is like, there is an end in sight. I mean, this is not going to, it's going to be hell, but the deal is it will pass. And the deal is we just got to learn how to survive and get through it. But I think the smart lawyers are the ones that are planning ahead and using the resources, because it takes so much time and so much energy and so much investment, and these people have so much intellectual capital. I can't I had a person call me yesterday, a marketing director with this big firm, and they netted $10 million last year, and they let him go yesterday. And I think that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Why would you want to? Now, when the things come back, they got to go back in and hire somebody, and it ain't gonna be that guy because he says I'll never go back. He wants me to help him find a job, and I said, if you can relocate, I can find you a job when all this is over with. But I think that's the big deal is catch up, clean up, try to keep things going. And you got to, and I'm advising all our clients, all our members of PILMA to look at each line item and ask this simple question: does this generate revenue? If it doesn't, then probably suspend it right now. If it does, then probably stay with it. But try not to let go key employees. I think that's the biggest mistake you can make.
Well, agreed, Ken. And look, this time there's a lot of talk about leadership, and I think we're talking about more about that later. But one of the things we've said is my partner and I, we're not taking pay for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
We're probably not taking pay for 6 months, if not a year. We're doing this, so we're asking for sacrifice. It's not like, I'm working 12, 14-hour days just to make sure we have something to come back to and putting those things in place. I'll conclude with marketing, but just some quick actionable steps if they're not already taken by everybody here. Jay and I, for many years, have used WorkSnaps as a mandatory work from home tool. It's cheap. People download it on their computers. It gives you an email at the end of the day, that literally, or a dashboard you can go to, and it consolidates the work so you can see who's actually working. Now, there's some gaming of it, but in general, at least it shows the person isn't completely abandoning their workload. And we've used that, rallying the troops to say, hey, we're in it together. If we get the revenue in on the PI side and we're able to turn these cases, everybody's got a job and everybody's got money. I'm looking at this as a 4-month over under, which is not maybe the norm, but I'm assuming that we have. I hope it's a lot less. I hope it's a month or two. But one of my mentors, who's one of the largest PI guys in the country, called me yesterday for advice, and I'm like, my head starts to explode, because I'm like, when that's happening, the world's upside down. And they were sort of using the analogy of the truck and having enough gas in the truck, at the end of it, so that you can keep going and you can get yourself back, as you just talked about, Ken. 2 things that we did short term, particularly if you're in a fee for service tighter, is we have been canceling all the credit cards, issuing new ones, so that every charge coming through has to be reapproved. Same with bank accounts, opening a new account so that the ACHs don't automatically pull out. Obviously payroll, you want all that stuff to come, but if you've inadvertently had certain expenses that you don't necessarily want and have forgotten about, it's one thing to go through your statement, but it's another one that actually pings or actually comes out of your account. We're looking at it very methodically, doing everything possible to keep cash flow positive, keep everybody as empowered as possible, and following Ken's line, because we really don't want to lose any of those key people and want to be able to come out of it. So with Bill reappearing, my guess is that it's time to shift over, but I'll leave you with the following piece, which is marketing in general. And I think that you really need to look at the practice area that you're in. My advice to somebody who's doing plaintiff's work where there's still cases out there may be very different than if you're a DUI lawyer. If you're a DUI lawyer and there are no DUIs being spent, Google in theory is cutting down your spend if less people are clicking. But we're seeing, based on the signups for this and Facebook posts, I put an anniversary post, and so the 500, almost 450 likes, people are home and clicking. So being very careful. I'd love to hear Bill speak about this later. That pay-per-click is one of those things that I think needs to be looked at as with a scalpel right now. And is this an area that has any monetization? And if it doesn't, turning those down and finding the areas that do and have potential, even if it's not as great of a cost per case, but making sure that there's actual viable cases before you leave the pay-per-click on.
To give Jay an intro, Jay is also kind of like a father figure to me. He's a mentor in a lot of ways, and just like Seth. And he has, I believe, 13 attorneys under him in his Connecticut practice. He's pretty much the omnipresent law firm in Connecticut for DUIs. And he has multiple brands for different practice areas. He is brilliant at marketing, brilliant at virtual firm management and systems. And he's going to be going into his topic is how systems and social can save your firm.
Thanks, guys. Can everybody see my presentation here up on your screen? Let's see. Okay, so what I want to talk today is a little bit about how we can really attack the next couple of weeks and derive benefit for our firms from them. And so my name is Jay. My marketing agency is FirmFlex. We talk about social media and how it can impact your firm. I'm also a lawyer. I've been practicing for 20 plus years, focusing primarily on criminal defense cases, also working on innocence project cases, exonerations. We've walked 3 guys out of jail now who were serving life sentences. So certainly that's something that I'm very proud of. But we are now, I talked a little bit about before when we started, we're actually, I calculated, we're 12 days into our work from home situation. Our state was one of the first states that closed down things very quickly. And so my people, 12 days into isolation, and it has been had zero impact on our core functionality. The way I like to look at it is we have certain members of our firm, lawyers and support staff, that are just core functioning. They're the brain, the lungs, and the heart of our firm, and we need to keep them functioning even through challenging times. You know, one of the things that we're able to benefit from is that we live up in New England, and so we're used to having snow days. So it wasn't unusual for us to have 1 or 2 days every winter where everyone had to work from home. So we adapted the technology early on over the last couple of years and really set out to define everything so that everybody knew what their responsibility was, so that your wide receivers were running the right routes and they weren't looking to necessarily be looking for sacks. You know, everyone's got a defined role in their position. And that's really all about the systems that you have in your office. So what I want to talk a little bit about is the systems and what you can do over the next couple of weeks to define how your firm moves forward. There's really 2 things you can do now, is identify the problems that you had over the last couple of weeks as you transition to maybe work from home, and put yourself in the shoes of, if I'm going to solve this problem in the future, what do I need to do? Is it tools? Is it technology? Is it getting access to the clients? And then the next thing I want you to focus on is think about how you're going to reopen over the next couple of weeks when they finally say all clear. What are your steps that you're going to do to reopen your practice? And what you can do while you're sitting at home, while you have a little stress, is actually go through and start making checklists, right? And so when you're building these systems, there's a couple things that you need to know. There's really 3 parts to any system that you're going to develop and you're going to document. And you can document these things very simply in like a Google Doc or a Word doc. I'm not going to suggest that you go out and you buy new software or anything like that. Just start writing them down. Hell, a yellow legal pad and a pen. You can develop the systems that you need to relaunch whenever this thing gets behind us, right? So the 3 parts to any system you want to talk about are basically focusing on the one way your firm is going to do things going forward. And this is challenging, especially for legacy firms who've had a number of employees that have been around for 10, 15, 20, even 40 years, because you might have a situation where different people in the office do things just a little bit differently. But it's important to fashion one particular way that your office is going to work. Because quite frankly, if you don't have that one way, it's hard for everybody to be getting in the same direction. If you've got a bunch of people rowing a boat and one person is rowing the wrong way, you're not going to go straight. And that's what we want. We want to go straight forward to success. So the first thing you need to do when you're defining your systems is to define what is the thing that you want to address. You want to bring it down as low as possible, as small as possible, and start creating the systems for that. Because systems are what is going to make your firm sellable in the future. That's why buying a franchise costs more to open than you just opening a restaurant. If you want to buy a McDonald's franchise or a pizza franchise, it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, right? But if you want to open up a burger stand, you can sign a lease and with $5,000 be flipping burgers the next day. The reality is those franchises are successful for a number of reasons, but most importantly, they've thought of a system for everything. And that's your job now in your downtime to sort of reset and start thinking about all the different things that you do. You know, every lawyer out there really has systems for how they approach the cases that they handle. And you just sort of get into a rhythm when you're doing it and times are good. Now's your opportunity when the phones are quiet, if they are, or if you're stressed and you need an outlet for that stress, build those systems by just writing them down. I mean, you have a system at home for where you put your house keys when you come home. If you come home and don't put your house keys there, the next morning you're going to be frustrated, right? Because they're not going to be where you expect them. And you keep going back to this place where you expect those keys to be. You have a system for how you drive to the office, and you don't even look at the traffic on how you drive to the office most days. And then when somebody comes in and there's an accident on your way to the office and it upsets your whole day, you know, you could really get out of whack. So what I really want you to do is start and think about what your system is and what you're going to define it. All right. The next thing you want to do is write down what is the process for your system. And if you notice, these are questions that we're putting out there. So literally go through each step and say, okay, when I get back to the office, here's how we're going to handle the mail on a daily basis, right? We're going to identify one person gets the mail. They go through everything. They scan it however they do it. Or one person is the only person that handles courthouse continuances. So that way you can say, this is our best practice. This is how we do it, right? And that's what you want to do. And you got to recognize is that you're in a situation where you may have frontline support staff that are doing things on a regular basis. If you've documented their systems, then if you have to jettison those frontline support staff and a lawyer needs to step up and answer an intake call because your intake team isn't available anymore at night because you've had to let them go, that lawyer can quickly read their system and say, okay, I got this. I can do it 80%, 90% effectively. You're going to put yourself in a position to succeed while other law firms fail, right? Now, there are a lot of things that you can do when you're documenting your systems. First thing you can talk about is images and documents. You can put those into your systems if you have forms that you're using, if you have forms that you want to download, checklists and the like. You can do video or screen grabs. You can do a YouTube video where you walk people through how to file an appearance on a case or how to upload something to the courthouse e-filing system. You can do all those things and add them to your systems. Obviously, sample motions and form letters. If you do a lot of the same type of motions, you can use them and cut out all of the case-specific stuff, but have motions for a law student who comes in later to give them a foundation for something to go on. Obviously, you want to keep track of all your login information. That's something that's important, that you don't have all the login information in the office, because what if you get incapacitated? What if you're in the hospital and somebody in your office needs to be able to do something? They need to be able to have access to this data. So you should certainly do that. And basically to look at whatever you have in your head that only you have, you need to get it out of your head so that other people in your office can use it and keep your business afloat. Now, here's the most important thing. If you notice the first two things, what it is and what is the process, those were questions that we put out to people. Why we do it this way, that's a period. You want to establish in your system why it is that you do it a particular way and say, this is the way we do it. This is why we do it this way, so that people understand and there's no question about it. Because, you know, your staff, your junior attorneys, they want to understand why it is that they do something. And if they have that knowledge base, then they can rationalize and say, okay, that makes sense to me. And so we do it this way. This is the only reason why we do it this way. And you get that buy-in from people.
Jay,
Now,
quick question.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting questions in here on how to keep remote working employees actively working. I guess it's more accountability questions. We're getting a lot of them in here. So if you want to speak on that real quick while you're on the system side.
So what we're doing is we're doing 3 times a day. We're having meetups using Zoom or Google Hangouts. The lawyers are using Google Hangouts. The staff are using Zoom. And so as my staff managers are actually getting in with all the staff, 9 a.m., noon, 4:30 p.m., checking out what they're doing. Now, the lawyers, the lawyers are meeting twice a day, beginning of the day, end of the day, and just sort of identifying the areas where they want to actually move the business. We have a number of different things that people are working on back at their office and when they're, back at their home when they're out of the office. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to have people sort of working on a file and both doing the same thing. So open lines of communication is very necessary. You can do it using Slack, which is a tool that we use in our office regularly. Our Slack messages have gone down a little over the last week because we're doing the video conferencing 3 times a day for staff, 2 times a day for the lawyers. But it just makes us really accountable to each other. And quite frankly, if you have someone who is not willing to put in the work when they're working remotely, you have to understand that maybe they're not the right person for your team long term. Now, can you guarantee the same type of efficiency when people are working from home versus working in the office? Absolutely not. It's just not going to happen, right? So if I have a remote team of lawyers and I usually get 9 to 5 out of them, well, I'm going to face facts and say maybe I'm only going to get 6 billable hours out of them in the course of a day. I'm not necessarily guaranteeing that I'm going to get 40 hours out of them, because I understand that your 4-year-old comes running in, or you got to help your kid with their homework because your spouse or your partner is sort of at wit's end trying to learn how you do Common Core math and teach that to a 6th grader or an 8th grader, and you got to jump in and help. But what you really have to do is remind people that the whole goal out of all of this is to return to a fully functional business on the back end so that everybody stays together. And so by using tools like worksteps.net, using the Google Hangouts regularly, the other thing you got to realize is that you have an office culture, whether you like it or not, and people will jump in and help each other out if they have that type of culture that you've built. If everyone sort of is segmented into their own little world, when they leave, and there's not really an incentive for have them to communicate with one another on a daily basis, and that can turn into isolation and lack of incentive to actually work. But as people see other people accomplishing things, you're gonna see your staff step up and handle it.
Hey, Jay, I got something for you. How are you dealing with the employee that may be fine in the workplace, but when they get home, you see productivity drop? Are you focusing in on those people? Are you cutting? How are you handling that type of situation?
Yeah, we actually are focusing in on those people, because those are the people that we want to make sure accomplish what we need to accomplish so that we continue to pay them and pay the staff that they support through their billings. And so what we're doing is we're hand holding, and it's labor intensive in that respect. But what we're doing is saying, okay, what are you working on right now? Here's what I need you to deliver to me by the end of the day, by the end of the week. Let's check in with you, deliver me some stuff. I have some newer associates, and that's precisely what we're doing, because if we just hand them a file and say, go to it, and they don't have anybody to bounce it off of, like they would have if they were in the office and could stand up and talk to the guy in the next office or talk to the woman down the hallway. If they don't have that, they could just sit there for an hour absolutely lost, and that's an hour of productivity you don't want to lose. So what we're doing is we're actually being very proactive in talking to them. What are you working on? What are your challenges? That type of thing, so that we can continue to push the firm forward. All right, so quickly, I love social media. FirmFlex is my company that really tries to teach a lot of lawyers how to use social media to help them build their practices. We are in an unprecedented opportunity right now to really allow us to really just blow out our social media and encourage people to build our brands. So many people are spending so many more hours on social media when they are working from home. And quite frankly, they're using it because the people are using social media because their engagement is at an all-time high. People are craving community, they're craving news, they're craving an escape from what's going on in their life. So you can use that to your advantage. There's an opportunity now to speak to your local followers directly on social media. There's an opportunity to establish your brand persona. Basically, who are you? Who are you as a firm, and what do you stand for? The more content you're able to push out on social right now, the better it's going to be for defining who you are and allowing you to mold that definition rather than wait for other people to say things about you. If you are actively encouraging people to support the restaurant and bartenders that are out of work at this point, that's something that you might develop a network of followers of people that are in that industry, and that can serve you long time, well after this whole thing is over. There's an opportunity for you simply to be seen as a community caretaker. Traditionally, lawyers are always seen as community caretakers. They're called out in their community to be part of board of directors and commerce groups. Now's the time for you to sort of put yourself out there to be that person. share information about what's going on in your local community, share quality information so that people can get an understanding of what's going on. The next month really can set you up and set your firm up as a brand and sort of develop that for the long term. You have an opportunity to really set yourself up for the next decade as more and more people are moving off of standard media. They're going to social media. They want to engage with their friends. They want to engage with their network. And just like the systems that I talked about a little earlier for running your practice, you need a system to get engagement. I have a daily coaching product, sort of like CrossFit for social media, called the FirmFlex Do-It-Yourself program. And I'm just going to give it away to you. We're going to give you guys all a free trial. So if you go to getfirmflex.com/social saves, you get 15 days of our product absolutely free. So you can start to see how you can engage with people in your local community. And we're putting out hacks every day, things that you can do to sort of drive the attention to your firm in a positive way so that you are able to really sort of get the best out of this for yourself. That's going to be it for me. My name is Jay Ruane. I'll put my email up there. And if you have any questions, certainly I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Jay. One quick question someone had was, do you recommend using Facebook paid ads and post boosts? This is Chris DiMatteo.
Okay, so love using Facebook paid ads, hate using Facebook boosts, right? If you're going to be doing paid ads on social, don't use that boost button, right? Boost button doesn't allow you to have any sort of targeting, right? And so if you're a family lawyer and you hit boost, you might be hitting 18-year-old single people. You just don't know. If you are going to be using paid advertising, you want to be able to set the demographics of the people that you want to target. There's a whole idea of using a social sales funnel to get the right people engaged with your practice. If you join the FirmFlex gym, we actually have a hack in our gym, a guide, so that you can walk yourself through how to set up sponsored paid ads on Facebook. It's right in the gym. So if you sign up, you'll get in and you'll be able to follow that step-by-step guide, avoid throwing away money on boosting, and actually get value out of spending. I mean, I have campaigns right now, social campaigns that run at $1 a day, right? And we're getting results at $1 a day because we're finely tuned who we're crafting our message to hit. And those people are responding and they're signing up for $1 a day. Can't beat that.
Awesome response, Jay. I was smirking because I knew your passionate response to boosted.
Oh, I hate the boost. I hate the boost. If you want, honestly, if you want to spend money on boost, here's what I'm going to do. My office address, 1 Enterprise Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484. Send me the money that you're going to put into your boost. Put it in an envelope. I will take that envelope. I'll go outside my office. I'll scream your name for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long it is for every $1 that you send me, and you'll get just as much value out of that than paying for a boost. Don't boost, sponsor. Big difference.
So what I'm going to be going through, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bill Hauser. What I'm going to be going through in my presentation is 6 tips as to how you can turn this obstacle into an opportunity. Yeah, I've been, all of this has been done so last minute. So we literally just put this together this morning. So what I'm going to be doing here is talking about how to turn obstacles into opportunities. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bill Hauser. I am the CEO of the SMB team. What we do is primarily we do a lot of Google ads for both huge law firms, medium-sized law firms, small law firms nationwide. What I want to do is go into how you can turn this huge obstacle into an opportunity for your firm. 2008 was the last time there was this much fear in the air, and my family went completely under. My story is basically, I walked in on my dad with another woman. You know, my dad basically became an alcoholic in 2008 because our family business completely failed. So, you know, he had a paving company doing $2 million a year, had 30 employees, and the entire company went under. And he turned to alcohol, which then led to infidelity. I write down my goals every day. And one of the goals I always write down is I own a recession-proof business where people can do what lights them up every day. And when all of this pandemic stuff started happening, my purpose in life lit a fire in me. I literally write this phrase down every day. I create a recession-proof environment. And if there's one big takeaway here, it is that you can create a recession-proof environment, because that didn't happen for my family in 2008. And I will not allow this to happen to my business or to the businesses that I work with in this current dilemma. Really, the pinnacle for me in my story was the day I called my dad after not talking to him for 2 years, and he blamed everything on me. I hung up the phone on him. He was holding a gun to his head, and I didn't know that until a couple of days later. And he almost killed himself that day, but he turned that gun to the woods behind him and wanted a second shot. And where I learned how to do marketing was actually 2 years after that. I extended an offer to handle his marketing so that we never were in the same predicament. My family made 2 mistakes in 2008. And the first was we contracted our marketing. And the second was we ignored the trends. So my first tip of advice, I don't want you to make the same mistakes I made, is let's express gratitude first. You know, we're going into a lot of strategies from Jay and Seth and a lot of these thought leaders, but I wanted to zoom out for a second. My first tip is very simple. Express gratitude. Make sure right now, I'm sure none of us have spent this much family time with our family and our loved ones. There are a lot of things for us to be grateful for. You know, outdoors, I know for the last week, I've been running outside early in the morning. And, you know, I just now realizing how much time I haven't been spending outside. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for home cooked meals and your industry. You guys are lawyers. You are not getting hit nearly as bad as someone who owns a restaurant or hotels or event organizers. You know, your industry is more need based than, you know, home improvement or a lot of these other want entertainment based, hospitality based industries. So be grateful for the fact that, you know, you're spending more time with your family, you're spending more time maybe outdoors, home cooked meals, and the fact that you are a lawyer, because there are many people who are worse off than you right now. The next thing is commit to a workout plan. So here's what I did. I set up this room in my house with a yoga mat where I can do high intensity interval training. Afterwards, I'll send you guys a link. I do this thing called Spring into Shape. It's a very simple 13-minute high intensity routine that you can do right in the house, requires no weights and gets the blood pumping. You do some push-ups, you get all of your body parts moving, and then I'll go for a jog right after that. So I committed to that being my routine since now I can't go to the gym. And if you don't have your health in check, there is going to be a temptation to eat more food. You're going to be around more food, right? There's going to be the temptation to obviously not work out because there's a change in plan unless you've already been working outside. So absolutely commit to a workout plan. The action step here, I think you should do right after this, set up a designated workout area in your house and commit to your workout plan. You can't do anything without health. Next tip. When there is adversity, you must stay clear on your goals. There is no exception here. Do not let this take you away from your goals, okay? So what do I mean by that? What I mean is you need to write down your goals at least every morning. If anybody on here follows me on Facebook, I do my Instagram stories every morning. And when I do my Instagram stories, you guys know I always write down my goals in full every morning and 5 gratitudes every morning, no exceptions. Now, with everything that's happening, I've decided to actually write my goals 2 times per day because there's so much clatter, there's so much room for distraction right now that I need to stay crystal clear on the target. And I need to inspire my team by staying crystal clear on the target. Here's the goal. Here's our end of year goal. Here's our end of quarter goal. Here's the goal. Here's the goal. You got to focus on where you're going. When you get in a car crash, what's the worst thing to do? To focus on the car crash, right? You want to focus on where you're going. When an obstacle comes into your life, focus on where you're going as quickly as you can. Accept the current circumstances. Stay clear on your goals. Write them down once or twice a day. Most people only write down their goals once a year. This is your chance to get crystal clear on your goals. Tip number 4, turn coronavirus, which is an obstacle to many people, into a lead generation opportunity. Literally, Monday morning, I woke up. This is 2 Mondays ago, 8 days ago. I woke up and shit hit the fan. Sorry for cursing. And I was like, oh my God, what can I do? This is like I immediately thought this is the biggest viral marketing opportunity of our generation. We will never have an opportunity like this before. So in 2 hours, I wrote a book called How Should Lawyers Respond to Coronavirus with Their Marketing? And in 48 hours, I got 101 leads from that book. And in 3 days, it ended up with around 150 leads who downloaded that book. And it was helpful, and I put my heart into it, and I was passionate in the book. If you guys haven't downloaded it, I'll give you a link at the end. It's free. So I turned COVID-19 into a lead generation opportunity that produced 150 leads. Okay, so March 16th, I wrote the book. March 17th, actually, this is not accurate. It was a couple days later. 150 lawyers downloaded it in 3 days. Then I set up this Eventbrite, which is sold out on the Ticketmaster link. We got literally 500 attorneys to come to this webinar because I was rowing in the same direction of this topic. So I got 650 leads in 8 days by capitalizing on the word coronavirus in my marketing and putting out a piece of content on it. We will never have a lead generation opportunity like this, probably for 100 years. If you can find a way, okay, to create a piece of coronavirus content that relates to your practice area and send it out to everyone you know, you can do the same thing in your practice area. You can set up a simple Facebook ad campaign in your immediate area, push this book out. Divorce is a perfect example. How being quarantined will affect divorce rates in Atlanta. Insert your geographic area. You can get tons of leads by doing that on Facebook right now. And again, I hate turning, this big health pandemic into an opportunity, but it is. I got 650 leads in 8 days. Okay. So do something similar. Create a coronavirus book for your practice area, how it impacts your practice area, and send it out to everyone you know. Do little Facebook ad campaigns, LinkedIn campaigns. You can do this for any practice area. And you can also do it if you're marketing in the lawyer to lawyer community, how this will affect lawyers, just like I did, if you're looking to build your referral base and become known by more lawyers in your market. My 5th tip is to expand strategic marketing, reduce stupid expenses, find arbitrage. So this is my tip here. I have never done more marketing than I have in the past 8 days. I have literally worked 19 hours a day for the last 8 days in a row. My advice is strategically expand marketing. Don't just, I got a call from the 5th biggest advertiser in all of Texas yesterday, who we've worked with before on a consulting basis. And he's like, Bill, now I am going to triple down on my digital marketing because all my competitors are scared. And he called me yesterday, and he's going to be doing an additional $50,000 a month budget on Google while all of his competitors are contracting. Our lawyers across the board, I went across our couple hundred accounts in Google Ads. We've seen a 5% change in search volume in the last 14 days. The challenge we've noticed in divorce, especially, is people are getting frustrated, living with the spouse, their not so loved one, right? But they're not reaching out. They're privately reaching out via form submissions more because they don't want to obviously call a lawyer right next to their loved one on the sofa sitting next to them. But there is still opportunity here. As soon as people start traveling again, there is going to be a lot of opportunity in PI. There's going to be what investors are calling a deprival period, where people are going to feel deprived of doing everyday things, and then they're going to overspend for a period, which will cause a temporary economic bounce back. It may still lead to a long-term downturn, but you need to be able to capitalize on this. So I would challenge you to strategically expand your marketing and reduce stupid expenses. Cost per clicks also decreased on Google Ads 10% in the last 14 days, which is something we've never seen before. So the cost per lead is lower, but again, there's going to be some contact problems probably until people have more freedom to call lawyers whenever they want. Tip number 6, use this as an opportunity to virtualize your practice. So if you haven't been using e-signatures, now's your chance to set it all up. It is not that hard to do, to set up on DocuSign. Virtual case management, Jay was talking about systems. Super important for you to use this time to set up your virtual case management systems. And last but not least, push virtual consultations. Like, you need to proactively push your leads. Hey, we're willing to do a virtual consultation with you for the leads you do have. Do whatever it takes to proactively notify your leads, past leads, current leads, etc., that you are still working and you're still able to help them with a consultation virtually. Proactively do that. Moral of the story here is turn obstacles into opportunities, okay? Don't cower in fear. Turn these obstacles into opportunities to dial in your health. Get creative, okay? Everyone is typing in the words coronavirus and something, right? Share this on social. Jay talked about social. It went viral for me. The same thing can happen for you. And even if it doesn't lead to immediate, business, you will build your lead list so that when this passes, you will have a bigger network in your market. We put together a couple of options here based on some of my tips, how we could help you. This was literally midnight last night. We put all this together. We're willing to help you with 3 things. First is how to virtualize your practice. If you need emergency help, we've formed a partnership with a very good systems building company who can help you build systems, whether you need to build out your e-signatures, your e-signature software, virtualize your case management software, or get set up for virtual consultations. We can help you with all of that. And I'll be sending you guys emails afterwards. The second option is we extended an offer where we can create a piece of coronavirus content for your law firm. So we'll create an ebook for you, a blog post, and a landing page that you can send out to everyone you know and get leads by capitalizing on the topic of how coronavirus will relate to or impact your practice area. And then lastly is a free Google Ads screen share consultation. We used to only do monthly agreements, but we're getting some people really need help right now. So I basically told all my account managers, you're going to be helping people for the next 2 weeks who have immediate emergency problems and need immediate phone calls. So we're offering one-time setup packages. We'll do one-time landing page creation for you, a la carte consulting. We'll help solve your Google ad problems. There's going to be some practice areas that are going to spike in demand, like estates, domestic violence, we're seeing a spike in. There's a handful of practice areas that are going to grow as people are quarantined. So if you guys are interested in any of these 3, again, just screenshot this page and then go to the link that we have typed in. I'm sorry I couldn't make the links easier. We had short notice. And I also have some free giveaways, which I'll send you guys afterwards. I just wrote a book called PPC for Lawyers, Not Dummies. So you guys can download that for free. And then lastly, if you want to see the book to see an example of how I did this and got 150 leads in 3 days, go to smbteam.com/coronavirus. You can download it right there. Thank you guys so much for attending for being here. Really, our next Ken Hardison is the founder of Pilma. He works with how many, Ken? How many firms?
Oh, over right now, presently about 300.
Yeah, so he has a lot of information. I mean, he owns, he runs one of the biggest, really mastermind groups of law firms in the United States. He is a authority when it comes to managing, a small to medium-sized law firm. So
Right.
Ken, take it away, and I'm really excited to hear about how your advice on managing cash flow.
Revenue is vanity and profit is sanity, but cash is king. And there's a book that I would really recommend. It's a guy by the name Greg Crabtree, and it's called Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits. during this downtime, if you've got time to order it off Amazon or get it on Kindle or whatever, um, his big deal is revenues is don't really matter. It's what and profit's good, but really cash, and it's really important in times like these. And the deal is you should have 2 months of cash reserves of operating expenses, and most firms don't, to be honest. And I can say that I didn't have it for many, many years. Um, so then the question comes to, well, what are you going to do if you don't have 2 months of cash reserves for operating expenses? Well, the first reaction most people have is a knee-jerk reaction, is to cut all marketing, lay off a bunch of people, turn inward, and just freeze like a deer with its headlights, with its eyes in the headlights. But here's what you should be doing. I think you should be looking at your marketing, and if you know your numbers, you should be looking at what's effective and look at it, like I said earlier, on a weekly basis. But I would say cut like 50%, and it depends on what kind of practice. Like Seth was talking about, criminals just dried up, but with like PI, they're still getting cases. I heard somebody said domestic still getting cases. Then I saw a question on there about wills and how can you do wills. I think, because you got to have a notary and witnesses and everything. I don't see why you can't set it up and do Zoom and just have people go to different rooms and watch them do it, and then have somebody just bring the papers around. So that would be the way I would do it. I mean, nobody told me that. I was just thinking logically, that's the way I would do it. Set it up with your computers and Zoom, and they can watch them. The witness can watch the person sign. They don't have to be in the room, or they can watch them sign. If you got glass in your conference room, you could do it that way. But anyway, so it goes to depend on your practice. But I think the big deal is don't, like I said earlier, don't go about just wholesaling, cutting your people, because they've got a lot of intellectual capital, and they've got. It took you a long time to find them, and if they're really good people, you want to hold on to them, because, as I said earlier, this will pass. And the deal is, somebody else going to talk about this. You got to rise to the occasion to be a leader. And I think other things you can do is go through your line items by line item and see what generating revenue, and if it's not, then suspend it. I thought Seth's idea of canceling all the credit cards and getting new ones was a pretty good. I thought that was pretty good, and changing. I hadn't done that, but I think it's a good idea. And then I would here's another way that you can increase your cash flow. You could just start, if you've been paying things in 30 days, just start paying them in 60 days, and go ahead and call or write your vendors and say, here's the deal, we're all in this together, and for me to continue to be your customer, I'm going to need to push this out so I can keep my business afloat. And, what are they going to do? Sue you because the courts are closed? I mean, really, think about it. But I think the deal is what I've always seen, because I've been in times when things were rough. When I first started, I was like this, and PI firms tend to be like this. It's either feast or famine. I just would always call up the vendors and tell you, here's the deal. And 95% of the vendors will work with you, because they'd rather keep you as a long-time customer client than to lose you. And there are going to be some people that don't care. There's probably people you don't want to deal with in the future anyway, so don't worry about it. Then I think, as I said, only lay off people that can't work remotely. And I would consider, if you can go remote, do it. And Seth had he had a software he was talking about. Another one is Log Me In. Your phones, if you've got voice over internet phones, you can have those forwarded. If you don't, you can have your line. You can call your landline company and have them forwarded to somebody, and then just set up callback times where you say these 5 employees, or however many you got. If you got a big staff, they'll call you back between 3 and 4, 4 and 5, or 2 and 3, and that way they know it, and it can just handle that all through emails or Slack or whatever. Then I think the big deal. So these are some ways that you can deal with cash. But then here's another deal, and I'm actually, as soon as I get off of this, I'm hosting a webinar over on Pilma about SBA loans, and it's not been passed yet, but I would tell you this, you need to, there's going to be over $300 billion where there's usually only $30 billion in the SBA loan program. So it's going to apply to solos, anybody. And the disaster loans are not going to be as, the underwriting is going to be hardly nothing. So the deal is, I will tell you this, you need to go ahead and start figuring out what your average monthly payroll is for the last 12 months, what your average rent payments are for the last 12 months, any other kind of debts, whether it be a mortgage on your building or any kind of bank loans, company car payments, leased equipment. Get that all together and have it ready, because when this passes, there's going to be a lot of opportunity, but it's going to be first come, first serve. And there is going to be 300 billion, but I think it'll run out. So if you want more information about that too, PILMA, it's PILMA.org. We have a survival kit, resources for lawyers, and we actually have stuff like some of our members have given us stuff like boilerplate forms about control policy. We've got other ones and free downloads of other webinars. We're going to have some things on here about loans, about business interruption insurance. I think New Jersey just passed something yesterday that's going to say it's got a carrier facing 5 strategies to restore calm, because that's a big deal too. And working home, remote work advocates, strategies, virtual meetings, how to protect my road. And we got something we're going to be putting on today about cash management from Greg Crabtree, a 45-minute YouTube video about how to deal with this cash crunch. And it will be on, it should be on now, but it will be on after lunch. Also, also you might want to think about putting a expense sheet line in your accounts payable for COVID-19 and anything that you're doing extra, because there might be some extra money or grants for things. And so I would actually put a line item and start expensing that. And that's just not equipment, it's hours that you spent having to deal with getting setting up remote or whatever. So I think the big deal is don't do a knee-jerk reaction. And I've got something I want to tell you. It's this is a story, and I think it'll make you see the way that you need to think about this whole crisis. There was a fighter pilot in World War II named John Boyd, and he was the best. He was the ace. The generals and stuff didn't like him because he was a renegade. But he had this. But people asked him about his secrets, and his secret was he had called the OODA loop system, and so he always was smarter than the other pilots, and he always, when they had the dog fights or the simulators, he would always beat them like within 5-10 seconds. But it was OODA. It was observe your environment with no bias, orient yourself to where you're at, how do I fit in, and then decision, what is my strategy, what's my next step, and then action. So since I didn't have any I'm gonna put this up there. So can y'all see that? Yeah. So anyway, that is where you need to be thinking about this whole coronavirus. You need to observe each week. I think you need to relook at it and see where you're at, what the environment is, and then orient yourself and see how am I going to fit in, and then what's going to be my strategy, and then what action am I going to take. And I think if you do this and keep everybody calm, and I'm not going to talk a lot about leadership, but I think the big deal is everybody's going to go off your lead, and the deal is you need to keep everybody calm. And I see it as a time to give, and I think Jay was just on point. I think Bill's on point. Create these things that you can help the community. And, that's what we're doing at PILMA. I mean, the Powerful Innovative Legal Marketing Management Association. We've set up this coronavirus kit, survival kit. It's free to anybody, not just members. My members, I'm doing a Zoom video meeting every afternoon with the different, I got 5 different masterminds, and we're doing each one of those. And then I'm doing my regular members each week. So we're doing that. And the things that you could do is, like, no matter what it is, if you can just look at the policy or get somebody on this business interruption, that's going to be a public service. Maybe people, they're getting sick, maybe they need some living wills or some health power of attorneys or whatever. I mean, whatever you can do to give back to community, and I think push it out through social media is going to be a way to save cash, but also to, you know, really build your brand, and it'll pay off long-term dividends, is what I say. And here's the last thing I'll say. I think this is a great time to catch up and clean up. And what I mean by that is, like Jay was saying, be a great time to work on your processes, any kind of projects that you've been putting behind because you just didn't have time, you were too busy. Now is a great time to do it, whatever it might be, going paperless, different phone system, whatever. And this is also a great time to work on your strategy for how you're going to pulverize your competition when this all breaks loose. Instead of, you know, you got to be concerned with now, and I say look at it weekly, but the deal is you need to be thinking about the future. Always be thinking. Great leaders, great business people are always looking down the road. You know, they're never just looking at what's here now. And I think the deal is you need to look at what is going to be your breakout or something, you know, that you can really stand apart from all your competition. What kind of programs can you do? What kind of promotions can you do to really push out when all this is over with, or when it's on the downswing? So, you know, big deal is, you know, cut expenses, try to hold on to your key employees, line item by line item. If it don't produce income, if it's don't generate revenue, suspend it, and look into these loans, because I got a feeling that a lot of these loans are going to be easy to get, and I got a feeling that if you don't fire, you know, more than 10% of your staff, that you're probably going to get a forgiveness on them. I really do. Now, we don't know for sure, because in fact, they might have passed it while we're doing this webinar, but I know they're negotiating and they're trying to take a vote on it again. And I know that Schumer is making some progress overnight with the Republicans. So we'll see what happens. But I think the time is don't panic, and stay the course and think about giving, plus what are you going to do in the future when this thing falls, you know, passes over, which it will. That's all I got. Well,
Ken, thank you so much. You know, great advice there. So guys, if they want to go to the survival kit, where is that link again? Okay, it's PILMA.org, PILMMA. And if you got any questions or anything, you can just email me.
Hey, Bill, it's in the notes.
Huh? Okay.
It's already posted in the notes by your staff.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Cool. Okay. They're on top of it.
All right.
But, go ahead.
I'm just saying I'm here. I mean, my whole deal now is we cut off all promotions, and we're just here to give back to the lawyers. And I'm just here to help. Ken, K-E-N at PILMA.org. You can email me, no charge. I just want to help. I mean, this is what our core values are. We talked about it this morning. We're here to help lawyers, and what better time now than ever to live by our core values. So we're here to help any way we can. Awesome, Ken. Thank you so much for the awesome tips. I have pages of notes from you talking. That's why I keep pausing my cameras, because I'm like scribbling notes down. Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you. If you guys have any questions, email Ken at ken@pilma.org and go get the survival kit. And the one and only Mike Mogill, the CEO of Crisp Video.
All right, Bill. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for really taking time out today to participate in something like this, because I believe that the information that you consume and where you consume it is extremely important. So you can be around a lot of people that are, you know, doom and gloom, and you can be watching, CNN, like constant negative news, and Fox News, and all the, just seeing how bad things are and paralyzing yourself. Or you could be surrounding yourself with people that are growth minded and are looking at things proactively in terms of what solutions there actually could be. So what I wanted to talk about really is just kind of leading through adversity and what you can do as a law firm owner during this time. We've been in constant communication with our clients, and I think that success leaves clues. So when you see what some of the most successful firms are doing during this time and how they're managing their teams, what they're doing with their clients, what they're doing in their communities, that gives you a good indicator of like, okay, there are people that are being not only very proactive, but are able to like not just survive, but potentially even thrive during this period of time. So the first thing I want people to think about, just as an entryway into what we're going to discuss, is just remember the world you want to come back to when this is over. Okay, because there's a lot that we can do as leaders during this time to make things better for the people around us. And I'm assuming that because you became a leader and an entrepreneur and a CEO, that chances are that you believe that you'd be rather bet on yourself for your future than bet on somebody else. And with that comes a lot of responsibility. And I think a lot of just, being responsible for your clients, being responsible for your team and their families, your family, and so on, that heavy lies the crown. And I believe that in this moment, true leaders will step up. Let me see if I can share a screen here. We'll see how well this works. All right, let's see if everyone can see that. I don't know if you still see me, but I wanted to hit on really 3 points. Okay. So today what we're going to really cover is, your job as a leader, the biggest mistakes you can make right now, and then the opportunity for innovation. So because this is, there's really 3 points, there's nothing on the slides outside of the topics themselves. What I'll do is just basically go through it point by point. Okay. So the first one really starts with your job as a leader. And this is where I believe leaders have the opportunity to truly lead. First and foremost, it's difficult to help anybody else if you're not helping yourself first. So you can't pour from an empty cup, all those different things that we hear. And it's so true. I've also found that calm is contagious. I'll give you an example. When this coronavirus stuff was first starting out, and we were seeing situations get worse and worse, and we're speaking to our law firm owners in various markets. We work with about 1,000 firms, so we have firms in every market across America, and we're hearing about what's happening in their communities, what's happening to their, with their teams and so on. And as the situation gets worse and worse, and now we're feeling the impact of it, all those different things, it's very easy to go into freak out mode, okay? Because you're just getting bad news every day. Okay, you're having a problem every single day, and it's getting worse, and it's compounded by the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty and that we can't predict what the future holds. We don't know what tomorrow is going to be like, or next week, or next month, and you're asked to make decisions around, well, what do we think will happen a month from now or 2 months from now? So anybody who had an event is looking at, well, do I postpone the event? Do I cancel the event? If you have a workshop, if you have a seminar, if you have anything, like our company is very travel-based, right? So we're traveling to 50 to 60 firms a month. Well, what happens when you can't travel anymore? Or what happens when people aren't allowed to leave their homes and that's your business? So that's a very scary place to be. And we have, it's 65 people on our team right now. Our payroll is $25,000 a day. Okay. To say that I was not terrified and scared and still am scared would be completely dishonest. Okay. I absolutely am, without a doubt. I mean, you have to understand, just like any other business owner during this time, yes, I think that's a very natural part of it. I guess the question is that what do you do in spite of that? So courage is not just, leading into the face of battle and pounding your chest. I think courage is truly being scared, but not letting that stop you from doing the things necessary to support the people around you. So I think your job as a leader is to, quite frankly, and I'll simplify this, is to step up and lead. Okay. There's a lot of leaders that are looking around to somebody else to give instruction on what they should be doing when other people are looking to them for clarity, like your team and their families and your clients and so on. The best thing you can be, and this is in my humble opinion, is an example for others. So, but you have to make sure that you're getting your situation under control first. And the first thing is really making sure that calm is contagious. I learned this a long time ago. I think this is like a Navy SEAL maxim, where when they're going into battle, if someone's freaking out, that puts other people on edge, and then they start freaking out. So you have to maintain a sense of calm within your organization, calm and clarity. The other thing is you got to gather yourself. So if you're having any type of daily routines, I share this with the team, and I do this in our daily morning check-ins. I'll do it till I'm blue in the face. But it is easy to get off track when when your environment changes. You go from working in an office to working at home on your couch. You've got your spouse, or you've got a significant other. You've got a dog running around. Like now you're working remotely. Your routine changes. You used to work out, but now the gym's closed. Like, what do you do? And it's more important than ever to discipline yourself in a way that you're making sure that you maintain those rhythms and your team maintains those rhythms of making sure that those are the habits that keep you on track. So some examples of things that we've done with the team, we instituted, so we do our morning check-ins via Zoom, the same platform we're on now. The team leads also do a check-in with their departments before the all-team check-in in the morning. Then we do a midday and then an end of day. So the team is actually interfacing continuously. We use Slack, and we've been working remotely to message one another. And in addition to that, we also use a platform, this is free, it's called Commit to 3. And this was a way that team members could state what their commitments were for the day. We were able to track their accountabilities. We could do it department by department. It's actually a free tool. Just search like Commit to 3. We used it several years ago and we brought it back, and we'll actually probably still keep using it even after the Corona thing. Once we're out of this, right, we'll still use it because we're actually finding that a lot of the things that we're realizing now are working quite well and that, we stumbled upon end up being like things you'll want to probably maintain even after, once we go back to working in the office and we're no longer working remotely and people are allowed to go outside and they're allowed to actually, commerce with one another. This all comes from a realization that you have to accept what you can't control and focus on what you can control. So I see a lot. I mean, Bill said at the very start, and I'm not trying to not be empathetic to the fact that people are going through a very, very, very difficult time. They're going through a cash crunch in their business. They're put in very difficult situations. People in their communities are struggling. Their families are struggling. That is a scary place to be. And I'm not trying to undermine the fact of that how scary that really is. But you decide whether you can play the victim or whether you're going to take proactive action. And I'm not beating my chest in some Tony Robbins kind of way of saying go out there and do something. I'm recognizing this in our own business. When we came in, when this was first heating up, before we made the decision to send everybody to work remote, because we're not a remote company by nature, we had a meeting with all the team leads. We stopped everything and we mapped out a game plan of saying, look, what we were doing previously wasn't working and we're going to have to pivot and adjust because the landscape is different. Ken was just speaking. He laid out some very, very good points in the sense that this is the time to give. This is the time to focus on how you can bring value to people, to bring hope to people, not the time to go for the sale and really pull back. I think people will remember how leaders and organizations behave during this time. And they'll see whether they stepped up or not, and they'll see how they treated their clients, and they'll see how they treated their community and all these different things. And the final thing I'll say is your job as a leader. It's amazing how much I see people, how much they know about the coronavirus and they know about the stock market. But are you paying as close attention to your business as you are to coronavirus? And that's something where it's you can tell me exactly, someone will tell me how many cases there were in some third world country the other day, but they can't tell me their average case value or their cost of acquisition or anything like that. And this is a great time to refocus on what you can control and really focus on your business. So that's the first thing in terms of your job as a leader. The next one is some of the biggest mistakes you can make right now. So I surveyed a number of our clients the other day and I asked them, I was like, the most successful firms, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you can make right now as a business, as a law firm? And I want to share with you guys some of the things that they said. The first one, this is the most common one above anything else, was to panic and make decisions from a place of fear and emotion and not clarity. So meaning that you're making decisions based on gut instinct, which is typically low-level decision-making, because in the present situation, you start making all sorts of predictions for how things will be tomorrow and next month and 2 months from now when you really don't know, and you perhaps could make the wrong decision. You want to have calm and clarity when you go into making any decision, and if emotion's playing too strongly of a role, I would encourage you to pull back, gain some perspective, gain some clarity before impacting somebody's life in a manner just because you're scared, okay? The next thing is, this is simple, but this is just something we were hearing last week. They were saying, we have clients were saying that my phone's not ringing. And, this is a simple thing. If you have not already done this, I promise you may roll your eyes when I say this, but have you notified your clients, prospective clients in the community that you are open for business? Because not everyone's aware. Some people think everybody's shut down. Have you, shown them that you guys are working remotely, that your team is available, that you can, do Zoom conferences, that you can do e-sign, that there's all sorts of options for reaching out to you. If you haven't done that, I certainly encourage you to do so because, here's another example, non-law firm. Look at restaurants right now. We don't know what restaurants are open, what restaurants are closed. But imagine a restaurant, did a video and said, all right, just to let you guys know, we're doing curbside pickup and delivery. And let me take you back in our kitchen and show you how the food safety habits we're doing right now in light of coronavirus to show you how we're making sure to prepare your meals and deliver them to you in a safe way. That restaurant just gained the competitive advantage. So why not do the same thing with your law firm and show like your clients and your prospective clients how you are working remotely and that you are available and you're open for business. The next one, this is a big one, is making personnel decisions like layoffs based on assumptions without considering long-term implications. I'm going to catch a lot of criticism from people on this because I've been getting a lot of heat. It's like easy for you to say, and that's what's just puzzling to me. I don't know how many people know our story and our background in that. The whole thing, we bootstrap this business. So when we have a payroll, and I'm feeling it every day, $25,000 a day. It's over $500,000 a month. It hurts. Okay. That is a tough position to be in. And when I make this, when I state this publicly, if I can't predict the future. So when I'm saying we're doing something, and if that ends up not being true or, whatever it is, people can call you a hypocrite and call you out. So I'm writing a very expensive check right now with what I'm about to say. But it breaks my heart when I see leaders, and this is, to me, this is not nobility. This is true leadership. When I see firm owners laying off a huge percentage of their staff, people that help them get to where they are today, the team, your vendors, your partners, and you're putting those people in the unemployment line to save your ass, like that is the single most disloyal thing that, in my opinion, that a firm could do to the rest of their staff. Okay. And we made a commitment that we would not do any layoffs. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to terminate someone who's not doing their job and is not accountable and is not performing. Like that, to me, doesn't matter if it's coronavirus or swine flu or whatever it is. That to me is, I think you're either doing your job or you're not. But in terms of laying people off, I think it is our duty as leaders to find a place for these people. Roles, don't matter at this point, right? I don't care if someone's an intake or they're paralegal or they're marketing, whatever the firm needs. And it's figuring out creatively what you can do to support that person and to support their family as a leader. Because to me, there's nothing more selfish than rolling into your multi-million-dollar home in the night after you laid off 75% of your team or flying in a G500. Shame on you. People will remember how we came out of this. This will all circulate back. Once that passes, we're all going to be open for business again. And the calls are going to start coming back in. What are we going to do? Rehire all the people we laid off? So I think laying off great team members is a knee-jerk reaction. And it's something to really seriously consider around. I understand cash flow. I understand the implications of that. But we need to look inward in terms of what is our role, and do we want to be the type of place that people can look to and our team can look to as this person's got my back. They will they will be creative. They will be strategic. Do your job as a leader, okay? And find a place for the people in your organization to exist while we weather this storm, rather than throwing them in the unemployment line, okay? The next thing, we already talked about this as a big mistake, is letting yourself go. So meaning that, you deviate from your daily routines, exercise, sleep, eating right, all the things that allow you to be, in peak state day over day, day to day, and so on. And, to be able to be in your best self, to make the right decisions, to be proactive, to be present, all those things are so important. And then leading into the next mistake, it's failing to adapt. So, I see a lot of firms right now. Again, I'll get some criticism for this. So, I may not be the most liked speaker on this webinar, though I'm grateful for your attention, that are using coronavirus as an excuse to give up and not try to come up with creative solutions. Saying, oh, it's coronavirus, or we're in quarantine, or like, what is it? Like like everyone's forced into their homes. They're not allowed to go out. It's like, man, what do I do? Okay, if you're the type of person that's looking for someone to tell you that there's nothing that you can do, it's not me, maybe it'll be somebody else, maybe find a different community or something like that where the people will have the pity party for you. But, as John Morgan says, you got two options, right? It's really grow or die. I do not believe that there is a true middle ground. If you are unwilling to adapt and innovate and be flexible, you will go out of business. We're all not going to make it. That's just the nature of it. But it's realizing that there's not, let me preserve what I have, and then I'm going to come out of the other end. I'm going to be great. I'm going to accomplish my long-term vision. Either you're proactively growing or you're slowly but steadily going out of business. And again, this is a defining moment for leaders because you have the opportunity to step up to do something rather than going into an underground bunker and waiting it out. Okay. And then finally, the last mistake that was shared by our firms is that you abandon your long-term vision in favor of impulsive decisions. So, when you look at, okay, forget what our growth goals were this year or next year or 5 years from now, and instead saying like, okay, right now, we need to forget about all that stuff and forget about the decisions that we were making. So you start cutting people and cutting partners and cutting vendors and cutting everything to just try to make it through and exist, rather than looking at it for the approach of how do I come up with creative solutions that allow me to take care of my team, my family, my partners, my vendors, and we all make it out of this together. I mean, it's the same thing I said at the very beginning. Remember the world you want to come back to when this is over. And if we're all, essentially, what's the word? Destroying one another. Like if we're destroying each other, we're saying we're going to cut our partners, cut our vendors, cut our team, and everybody's doing that to everybody else. Consider the fact that when we come out of this, whether you go to restaurants, whether you have, if you've got kids, I've got a 15-month-old, let's say they've got music lessons or karate, and those organizations weren't able to weather this storm, and now they're out of business. All the places you used to go eat, they're out of business. What kind of communities do we want to return to? So this leads me to my final point, which is number 3 here, which is the opportunity for innovation. Okay. So it is my firm belief that there's no greater investment and no greater return and no higher return on investment, stocks included, than investing in yourself and in your business. And probably there's no investment that you have greater control over either. You can't control the stock market, but you can control what's going on in your business and your law firm and yourself. So the most successful firms that we're speaking to, they're expanding. They're doubling down and they're investing more in their marketing because so consumption is like 2 to 3 times what it was 2 weeks ago. The CPMs on social media are now like way down because you're seeing a lot of like, let's say event advertisers, sports, and a lot of big advertisers that pulled out during this time, which drives the CPMs down, the cost per 1,000 impressions. So this is a great time to actually expand your marketing. What you might be doing, when you're marketing, the messaging is not hire us today. It's more about we're here for you. We're here to support you. We're here to support our communities. Show what you're doing as a beacon of just confidence and leadership. People will remember those things. You may sell them today, meaning that you sell them and that they trust you and they like you. And you just happen to collect later when they need you, right? When we come out of coronavirus, they'll remember the firm that was all about supporting their community, was proactive while everybody else was in hiding. So just know that pulling back and contracting is not a growth strategy, okay? And just growth-minded business owners, they're gonna look at these opportunities as, wow, we can really scale now. I was hearing for years, what a difficult job market this is. I can't find good people anywhere. It's impossible. It's so in favor of the employee and not the employer. Well, guess what? You got the best job market coming your way. It's already exists. So if you want to find great people, and in fact, if anyone here is on this webinar is laying off great A players, amazing people, let me know because we'd love to hire them because good people are really hard to find, as we all know. And if you guys are terminating your best people, well, wow, maybe we can find a place for them and it could save us a lot of time in just recruiting and time and energy and resources because we will come out of this and we will, remember, this will end, and eventually the phones will start ringing again, but eventually people are going to start collaborating more. There's going to be greater exchange of commerce. All these different things will start taking place and you're going to scale back up. You'll hire the people that perhaps you fired during this time, which I don't recommend doing. But you're going to have a need for all those people to answer your phones, to handle your intake, to do, paralegals, move cases forward, all those different things. But again, setbacks sort people. So this will be a defining moment for leaders who step up and are creative and strategic and find a way to make things happen. And at the same time, people will also remember those who, they were loyal to, but ended up, they were let go by their employer out of, self-preservation or partners or whatever it is. And people will remember that. They won't forget it. So again, this is a huge opportunity to step up. I want to encourage anyone. I'll share this with you, but I have nothing to sell you. But if anybody wants to reach out, you can text me. It's 404-531-7691. And you can reach out. We're putting out a lot of content from law firm owners. We're sharing a lot of success stories of what firms in different markets have been doing. Because again, I think it's helpful to see that there are firms that are really innovating and growing during this time as well. And that there are opportunities if you start looking at it from a growth mindset perspective. So I want to thank you guys for your time. And Bill, thank you for having me on the webinar.
Thank you so much, Mike. And everyone, make sure you guys stick through for the Q&A session that's going to be happening in about 15 minutes. We're going to be bringing on our next surprise speaker that was completely last minute as well, in addition to Mike. Mike, thank you so much. I knew that a lot of the points you're going to make were going to be kind of brute force. If you heard mine, I think you came in a little after mine. Very similar, expand, don't contract, turn coronavirus into a lead generation opportunity, not a contraction opportunity. There is probably going to be no content marketing opportunity like this for the next 100 years where you can put out a piece of content on coronavirus and how it relates to your practice area and literally have it go viral like it did for me to get 650 leads in 8 days. So make sure you guys capitalize on this. Get into creative problem solving mode. Like, this is the time to attack, to gobble up market share. Our next speaker, Tyson Mutrux, is gonna be coming on. He is the, I guess we'll call, founder of the, I don't know if that's the exact term. And by the way, is Tyson still on here? Let's check real quick.
I'm on here, baby.
Yes. All right. He is the founder of Maximum Lawyer Podcast, which I believe is the largest podcast in the United States for lawyers. He has, I believe, a very big Facebook group with thousands of lawyers. So I'm sure he's had tons of questions in there that I'm excited to hear his take on this so that we can get into a problem-solving mindset. Tyson, if you want to turn on your camera, I'm not seeing you.
It says I can't because the host has stopped it. So there we go.
Okay.
Got it.
Good. All right. Beautiful. So Tyson, take this off. These people are getting a lot of information, and I'm really excited to hear some of the tips you have.
Thanks, Bill. That was thanks for having me. Great job, Mike. That was awesome. Can I share my screen?
I'm seeing the screen. Seth, Tyson.
All right, cool. Thanks, Seth. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about mindset right now because we're seeing a lot of people freak out, and right now that's the worst thing you can do. All right, panic is the worst thing you can do at this moment. You need to get focused. All right, because we know daily life right now sucks. Right, you're worried about money. You're worried about the cases not coming in. You've got pissed off clients. Are you going to get sick? You've got bills that you still have to pay. Are you going to be able to pay for your employees? You got maybe because you're locked up with your spouse all day, you've got a pissed off spouse. And to add everything together, you now are a school teacher. You're teaching your kids. We understand you're feeling the weight. We're feeling it too. We get it. I'm sure it's stressing you out, right? You are stressed out to the max. We all understand it. You're not alone. But right now is not the time to go out into the streets and start screaming because you can't manage, okay? Because you can't. The easiest thing for you to do right now is to panic. You can go on Google and search the pandemic numbers, the new cases in China versus the US versus Italy. You can go on Facebook and rant about it. Turn off your phone. Stop doing that. Now is not the time to do that. You have people that need you in your lives. You've got employees that need you in their lives. You have kids. You've got a spouse. You've got employees. You've got clients. Now is the time for you to be a leader and go out and lead, not to curl up in a ball and panic. Got it? So I am a baseball fan, a big baseball fan. And a lot of times what happens whenever you're a kid, right, you go out, if you play baseball or any sport, this applies to anything in life really, but specifically about baseball, you're in the outfield, fly ball comes to you and you get a bad jump on it. And next thing you know, you go to catch it and you miss it, right? And then what happens is it's in your head, right? You're like, gosh, damn it. Like we're up by a run. Actually, we'll say we're down by a run. We're down by a run and I missed this damn fly ball. Now there's a runner at second and they've got a person in scoring position. And then, so all you're doing is think about that. You're pouting. You're not doing anything productive. You're just sitting there pouting. You're thinking about it and crack. Another ball gets hit and you look up, oh my gosh, it's to me. And you get another bad jump and you miss another one, that run scores, right? And then they end up getting another run and you're down even more. So it's just compiling and getting worse and worse and worse. And then you get up to bat and you're thinking about it. You've got a chance to even the score with runners in scoring position and you strike out because all you can think about is that first fly ball that you missed. That's what can happen with all this stuff. And so you've got to get your mind right now and stop worrying about what's going on, okay? What can you do right now to make things better, okay? That's what you need to be focusing on, and you're gonna do it one thing at a time. You can't do these, you can't come up with a list of things. I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, and I do all these things right now. We're gonna make things better. That's not how it works. You need to think about what is it that I can do right now? What's the one thing I should be doing right now to make things better? That's what you need to be focusing on. Not all these other things, not what's affecting other people. What can you do? And something Mike mentioned, what can you control? What are the things that you can do that you can control that you can do to make things better. It's crucial. So what you're going to do is you're going to list up to 3 things, the 3 things that you should be doing on a daily basis. And I'm trying to give you sort of a checklist, a way of doing this. So you're going to come up with the 3 things you should be doing on a daily basis to make things better, to get better, to improve, to get you through this crisis, okay? So this isn't something where you're just going to sit down for a couple minutes and think about it. You need to sit down for maybe a couple hours or the entire day or a couple days, really plan this out to figure out what you need to get through this crisis, because this could last easily into the fall or in the winter. We don't know that stuff, right? These are things we just don't know, but you need to plan for it. And then once you put those things, once you've come up with those 3 things, you are going to put them on the calendar. All right. You are going to put so whenever you get up in the morning, if you're working at home or you're going to the office, it doesn't matter. You are going to get dressed like you normally do. You're going to take your shower. You're going to just like you're going to work, and you're going to have a calendar that's going to tell you what you need to be doing. So, okay, at 9 o'clock, I know I still need to be producing content. All right. I'm going to do that for an hour. At 11 o'clock, I need to review cases to see if there's any cases that I can settle over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to review those at 11 o'clock. All right, so you've got those 3 things on your calendar that you know that you need to do to move things forward, and that is crucial. It's getting on your calendar, because if you just write them down and you don't put them on your calendar, you're not going to do it. You're just going to freak out. You're going to panic. You're not going to do it. Okay, it's important. You're going to do them. All right, once you put them on the calendar, you are going to do them, and you're going to stick to it every single day. The goal is to 90% of the time, you're going to do those things. So if you were to rate yourself on a 9 out of 10 every single day, am I getting a 9 every single day? That's your goal. If you get into the 7s, 8s, 6, 7s, 8s, you're not going to be successful at what you're trying to do. Get to 9s and 10s every single day. Make sure you're doing those important things. What you're doing is you're triaging, okay? You're going to let all the things that aren't important in your life, you're going to set those aside right now, and you're going to focus on the important things. All right, so I've talked about this before. I think this is important, though, especially right now, as to what's all going on. It's really, really, really easy to just say, this all sucks, I'm terrible, I can't do any better. And what most people think is that you are Clark Kent, right? And the reality is you're really more like Superman. And you can pick whatever superhero you want, you really can. But it's really easy to think that you're just Clark Kent. You're kind of cool, you're a newspaper reporter, whatever, but you're not a superhero. The reality is you really are, especially everyone on right now, you are a superhero. And here's how I know this. I always like talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect. And because we hear about a lot of times where people usually, they think that their abilities are higher than they are. I know this group is different, okay? I know that you all are superheroes because you're on this call. All right, that sets you apart from 99% of the population right now. You all are wanting to get better. You're wanting to improve, and that's why you're here. So most people are down here where it says them, right? Where they think that their abilities are really, really high, but their skills are actually really low. All right, so their perceived ability is better than their actual test scores. You are up here, and it's like I said, it's because you're on this call. You want to get better. So my guess is for the majority of you, your skill level is way higher than what you think. You just need to act on it, and you just need to know that. And the problem with that is confidence. And these are based on proven things, right? I'm not just spitting stuff out of my ass, okay? I'm telling you based on science and studies and research, okay? This is all a lot of this is based on confidence, and we need to improve your confidence. And so here's how we're going to do it. Done wells. This is crucial. While this is all going on, you need to celebrate your victories still, okay? It's important that every single day that you start out, when you go to work, you write down the 3 things that you've done in the last 24 hours that had moved the ball forward in getting you through this. This is crucial. I cannot overstate this part of it enough. You need to sit down and actually think, okay, all right, what have I done last 24 hours? What has moved the ball forward? And write them down, actually physically write them down. Trust me, it's going to shift your mindset quite a bit. You're going to get in that more positive mindset, and you're going to be moving things forward. And it's actually a really good way of starting your day because it's going to give you that energy, all right? The next part is I want you to come up with a mantra, all right? I want you to come up with a mantra that you're going to say to yourself every single day. And I'm going to put all this together for you in a second. I'm going to tie this together, but you need to be thinking about, okay, where do I want to be And I normally, the way I put this is, where do you want to be in 5 years? This is a special circumstance. So you're going to want to rephrase your mantra to kind of, if you want to get you through this, if this is really affecting you the way I think it is, most of you, the coronavirus, then you want to come up with a specific mantra for, I know this kind of sounds hokey, but a specific mantra for the coronavirus. And so, for example, what it might be is, in 9 months, I want to make sure that my firm is on the cutting edge of technology. So let's say personal injury, cutting edge of technology and personal injury cases. And I want to make sure that all of my employees are still fully employed in 9 months. Whatever it might be, you can come up with your own mantra, whatever it might be, but you need to have that mindset, something that's important to you, where you want your firm to be in 9 months, and you want to repeat that every single day to yourself. And here's where it's going to come in. So this takes you 100 seconds every day, and I promise you, it's proven to increase your confidence to help get you through this. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to take and I know this is crazy, but I promise you, if you try it for 10 days, you're going to love it, and it's going to be addictive, and it's going to help you with your mindset. You're going to breathe in for 7 seconds. You're going to breathe out for 8 seconds. And Bill Umansky, who I know is on here, I tested this on him, and he loves it, so he can attest to this. You're going to breathe in for 7, out for 8. You're going to say your mantra to yourself, and then you're going to picture your perfect life. So once you've gotten through all this stuff for 30 seconds, you're going to really just think about what you want things to look like once you've gotten out of all this. All right. So after you've done that for 30 seconds, you really see Bill Umansky. Amen. All right. So after you've done the 30 seconds of really thinking through what you want things to look like once you've gotten through all this, then I want you to picture you just killing it for the day. For 30 seconds, I want you to really just think about, okay, what's this day going to look like? What's it going to look like whenever I check off all the boxes that I need to do today? What's that going to look like? What's it going to feel like? And really just think about, if you got to make some phone calls for that day, what's it really going to feel like when you're on that phone call, having those discussions, making those tough choices? What's that really going to feel like? And then after you've done that, you're going to say your mantra again, and you're going to do the breath again. I promise you, I'll give you your money back if this doesn't work for you, okay? Because it is very, very effective. It's something that's going to help you out with your confidence every single day. It's going to get your mind right for the day, every single day. But unless anybody else has any questions or anything, I don't want you to panic. We're all going to get through this. This is something that we're all dealing with, so I don't want you to worry. There's plenty of us here for you to help you out. So if you need us, reach out to us, and we're happy to help. Thanks, Bill.
Jerome, everyone can hear you. What is your question?
Well, I'm actually thinking a little bit beyond where we are now. I was in some ways relieved to hear some of the things that I started thinking about and implementing in the past couple of days were suggestions that were made. But one of the things that has always puzzled me, I usually go to court every morning, and I'm there for a bunch of cases, and I don't get back till the afternoon, and by that time, the day's already full. So I'm curious as to how, referring to what you were talking about, people plan out, they set goals up on the morning of before they do whatever they're going to do and what they're going to accomplish. And basically, I'm planning to get through my morning in court and pick up afternoon. So hit and miss at that time.
Okay, so it seems like the question there was how to plan your day when things are changing like crazy. I think my advice there is I usually do quarterly rocks. I implement what's called Traction in my business. It's a really good book to read and implement in your business if you haven't. So Traction is a highly, highly recommended book on how to create quarterly rocks. But I think in today's day and age, my advice would be, just from a zoomed out perspective, since I'm not a lawyer, and then I'll hand this off to either Tyson, Jay, Seth. Yeah, I've reduced my goal setting to weekly goals. So I'm just creating crazy initiatives like to pull off this webinar in 1 week. Jay was like, shouldn't we push this a couple more days? And I was like, nope, we're going to pull this on Tuesday at exactly 11 a.m. We're going to pull this off. We're going to sell out the event. and we sold it out. We got over 500 people to attend this. So what I would recommend is condense your goals to 1 week, because right now we have to, like Ken Hardison was saying, we have to keep our pulse on, you know, the rapid changes happening. So Tyson, Jay, Seth, if you guys have anything to add?
So I'll jump in. Something I didn't get to touch on when we were talking about brass tacks of getting through this from the operations point of the firm, but I'm going to put on my SEO hat for a minute. If you have a morning without court, to me as an SEO geek, that should be, you know, if you, assuming that you're not putting out fires and you're stable for the moment, but any extra time to create content, to get links, are things from the SEO point of view that will pay big dividends when this is over and that we're back to a normal. The piece that I failed to mention, which is sort of breaking news from my world, was I planned on using this time as time to be able to work on reviews. Reviews are very important. Everybody's home. It's a good time to get people to write reviews. Google My Business has shut down the ability for new reviews. Unclear how well that's rolled out, but expect that they are freezing the ability. They may allow starred reviews, but not words. They may hold everything back, but since those teams aren't working, big sort of titanium shift in that little micro world, something that I was hoping to use this time for, does not look like it's going to be viable. But that said, you know, working on marketing so that if that extra time is available for people and you're taking Michael's advice and you're keeping excess staff, I'd love to see that staff doing something productive. And that's one of those things from my perspective.
I can address some of that too. You know, one of the ways that I sort of approach it, and I've actually seen Tyson's daily calendar, and it blows my mind because he's very, very precise and regimented on when he does things. I don't do it as detailed. And essentially the way I break down in my office when I'm running things, I have every day of the week has a focus. So Monday, we focus on the intake team and the marketing. On Tuesday, I talk about operations. On Wednesday, I'm focusing on administration. And so that's how I sort of approach it. And we're taking the same approach to my week while I'm home as I would be if I was in the office. So unless it's a problem I can solve very quickly, I put it onto the day, not necessarily the minute and the hour. And that's how I'm able to structure things in my office. You know, because when I'm working and when I'm practicing law and I'm going to court, you know, I could go to court at 9 and be out at 9:15, or go to court at 9 and be out at 1 p.m. I don't know what my day is going to say and going to look like. So the way I do it is I say, this is my day to focus on these problems, and I get as many of those done as I can during that day.
And Jay, I mean, I think the point of it is whatever works for you, right? Like you pick a day, I pick very specific time slots, and it just, I mean, you just need to shift your day around, honestly. I mean, so that's why like our litigation block is usually in the mornings, not every single day, because I don't usually have litigation. I usually don't have to appear in court every single morning because I do personal injury, but there are specific days like Tuesdays and Thursdays that I usually have to be in court. So I had those as my litigation block. What I've done is we've just shifted as to what we're doing. And there's two things we're doing. We're doing more content now, which is important. The other part of it is like we talked as a team last week. We're going to go full court press. Like some people were saying, well, should we stop filing lawsuits? I think now's the time to file lawsuits. We've got the defense, at least from the plaintiff side, they're laying off a bunch of people. So we can go on offense and really kind of push things to try to get some cases done. Like, so that's the mindset we're taking with it, but it really depends on what you do, what kind of area of law you practice. But I would shift it more into going on offense on cases or producing content is what I would do.
So I'll give the blanket answer on this in the sense that we make time for the things that are a priority for us. I mean, that is the nature of it. Everyone's always trying to figure out, well, how do I manage my to-do list, or how do I manage my inbox and all these things? And I tried this for years, right? I was like one of those inbox zero people that like, I cleared the inbox, but emails received is a function of emails sent. So meaning if you clear 200 emails, you get 200 back before you know it. And again, to me, this is one of the things about intentionality. If you're intentional about how you're going to spend your time and you're proactive, then you're laying out. So at the end of each day, I'm laying out the top 3 for the following day. At the end of each week, I'm laying out the top priorities for the upcoming week, right? And we have like the top 3 items for the week, but then also individual projects that happen. For me, as a rule, if it's not on the calendar, probably not getting done. But it's being very proactive about it in the sense that if you just come into the office with the expectation that you will get certain things done and certain things accomplished, I think you, in a way, deluding yourself because things happen, right? That's where, you become very reactive to the day to day. The other thing, there's a great book. It's called The One Thing that I recommend reading. And it's, this is all about like, literally like what would be the one thing that you could do today that would make all other things easier or unnecessary, and then doing that first. So it's usually the thing you don't want to do, or the one that's going to cause you the most pain, or the one that you have the most anxiety towards. But it's prioritizing your schedule in a way where like that's the first thing you get done, and now like everything else, it's all uphill from there. So to me, this is all about intentionality.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. And I'll tell you this much, it really comes down to what the leader does in this circumstance. I'm very transparent about my age. I'm 28 years old. I went from 0 to 12 full-time employees in 2 years, starting on a laptop. And I'll tell you this much, everyone was really scared Monday morning, scared for their jobs. What we pulled off by creating this webinar, guys, I'm not talking about the webinar for me. Like I want you guys to see literally in the last 8 days, okay? Like you need to, like, I would just hang up on this right now and go to work, like right now on your business. I would not consume any more content on coronavirus for lawyers. Don't buy into any of these crazy headlines. Like just go in your freaking lair and produce work that's going to inspire your team. Like right now, like we already got tons of, like, I don't know how many, maybe a handful of sales from a offer that my company created, where we'll create you coronavirus blog content. We'll create an ebook out of it and a landing page. That was not on my quarterly rocks. That was not on my to-do list last week or 2 weeks ago, but we created a new product for it in 2 days, and a landing page is up. We created a virtualize your law practice product in actually, it wasn't even made this morning before the webinar. We just made it, finalized the partnership agreement, done deal, landing page is rolled out. Like this level of massive action, when I end this, I'm going to have, I don't know, probably 4,000 leads when all of this is done. And like, again, this isn't about me. This is about you guys seeing someone who I don't have experience. I'm 28 years old. Like I don't know what I'm doing. This is my first webinar. I put this on in massive problem solving mode. Okay. I didn't consume one piece of news. Like this phone has been put out content or don't use it. Put out something or don't use it. Turn the phone down, limit social media to 30 minutes a day, and produce, because your clients are scared right now. They need someone to hold their hand and help them and capitalize on this situation. People are going to be getting tons of divorces after this. When people start traveling again, there's going to be a period where people overindulge because they've been quarantined. There will be a lot of auto accidents. Trucking accidents are going to be higher right now because there's more consumer shipping happening. Like there are opportunities happening right now in front of us. Domestic violence is going to increase because people are spending time at home. Like we have to look, that's just the right now though. Like that's all fine and good. But what Mike's talking about, what everyone here is talking about, are the next 2, 3, 4, 5 steps after this. Because if you study the last recessions, okay, look at the last 2 recessions, the dot-com bubble, look at 2008 real estate crash, go on a stock market ticker thing that measures S&P 500 and look at how slow the decline was into a recession. Then look at this decline, okay? This is a blip. Just study last recessions and realize that, oh, the entire stock market, it's not going to sustain. There's no way it can continue dropping this much every single minute, right? So there's going to be a bounce back period after the deprival period where people overindulge, and we need to be preparing for that time period. I'm not saying a recession won't happen because we've been in an economic expansion for 12 years and there's going to be interest rate contractions. Like this happens like in history. But what I'm saying is, how are you going to come out on the other end? And right now, the decisions you make are going to either lose the trust of your staff or inspire them and show them what's possible. Like I got texts from my entire team this morning, like, Bill, just keep up what you're doing right now, man. This is so cool. We were so scared and look what's going on now. So like, again, take this. I would bounce off this webinar like as quickly as you possibly can after this Q&A and get to work on creating a success story that your staff will talk about for the next 5 years. All right, let's go to the next Q&A. Let's see what we have here. I practice in New Jersey. I just received an email from an adversary that they wish to proceed via video conference for depositions in a multi-party consolidated personal injury case. You guys see this one in the Q&A? So it looks like it's a video.
Tyson, I'm gonna answer from the sort of global point here,
Sure.
which is like from my point of view, it's look, our court orders closing courts and depositions in PA, I believe they've canceled even video depositions. I don't want to unverified, but heard that from an attorney there. My point is this something that's going to get you through? If you're looking at the 1, 2, 3, 4 month window and you're trying to cash flow yourself to that, is this case something that's going to happen then, or is this something that you're going to have bills due during a longer term process to get money at the end? And I would be looking at and triaging it as to what the likelihood of settlement is, as to whether or not you want to push back and try to push this till after everything is back to normal, or is this something you want to push forward for now, assuming that you have that leeway?
I mean, I agree with that too, Seth. I don't disagree with it all. And all this is a lot of this is a case by case basis. I mean, I would tell the other side to go get bent with this situation, because I mean, it just doesn't seem feasible. I mean, I don't know how you could do the depot. It just doesn't make sense that you could do it. I would tell them you got to cancel the depot. Go fight me in court. Go get a motion to compel. Go pound sand. That's what I would say. I mean, if you cannot pull it off, don't pull it off. And by the way, I want to make sure that whenever I'm saying we go on offense, doesn't mean we're being dicks to people. So we're not doing things like that to people. That's bullshit. So I don't think if I would push back on that, I would say, listen, we can't do it. You're going to have to reschedule. And if you want to try to file a motion to compel, do it, but good luck is what I would say.
Yeah. I have another one here, which I love the energy on this one. Mike's going to love this. Person said, why cut your marketing by 50%? Because Ken said that, but Ken was talking about a lot of topics. Why cut your marketing by 50%? Isn't this an opportunity for those who work remotely and I guess have their firm set up for that? Take clients from all those who don't have that opportunity? I mean, I would answer, hell yes. So I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in there.
Sure. Why not? I mean, you look at the reality. We looked this morning, CPMs are down by at least 30%. So the cost per 1,000 impressions. So just simple math, like you're getting a 30% discount right now on ad spend. People are consuming content 2 to 3 times as much because they're sitting at home right now. It is a good time to get people's attention. So they're consuming content, and you can get their attention at a discount. So it's like, you look at it from the standpoint, let's say it was a stock market. Right? It's difficult to argue that it is a good time to buy. Yes, the market is down, but if you've got a long-term outlook, you're getting things on discount. So I think first of all, the logical aspect of it is that just you're getting it cheaper. More people are consuming content. And you'll see this with any content you post. We've been doing a lot of like Facebook Lives and dial-ins and different segments, and the content right now is getting more reach, viewership. The frequency is higher. The cost per 1,000 impressions is much lower. So there's that. The other thing is that because sometimes the pushback that we've gotten is, well, don't people have other things to worry about right now? Like, they're worried about the coronavirus. They're thinking about something else. Like, why do they really want to see law firm marketing? And I would defer to, anytime you get asked this, because whether you believe it is off tone or whatever it is, your message is, it may not be hire me now. It can be more importantly about, well, here's how our firm is working remotely. Here's how we're here to support you. Here's what we're doing in the community. All those different things. And there's a saying that you're either at the table or on the menu. I think that is a way to think about this, in the sense that either you're in the conversation or you're not, because they're still going to get all the social about coronavirus and what's going on in the news. They're consuming it regardless, and either you're there or you're not there. And let people decide whether they believe it is off color or off tone. But we have seen through our firms that people are having a very positive response. So I think this is a great time to scale up marketing. I mean, if you've been on Facebook, you can probably tell that we are. But then again, it's also, what is the goal today? If your goal is like, we need to get the phone ringing, we need to get a ton of clients today, it's realizing that that's not really the type of marketing, at least on social right now, that may yield the best results. I think it's more about branding and credibility and establishing trust, and for people to see the impact that you're making. So it's almost like you're selling them today and you're collecting on it later. So I think that's the opportunity to get in the conversation.
Agreed, Michael. I would say just with a couple caveats, making sure you're not tone deaf. Med mal is something that you don't want to be going at aggressively right now, in my opinion. And things that have a longer sales cycle, like trust and estates or family, even though the revenue may not come in today, that you're putting, those are buying units. And if you're retargeting and using best practices, that marketing dollar will pay off in the coming months.
And I got some
good point.
social. If you're looking for something to do, you don't really know what you want to do. One of the things that we're having some success with is, people are stuck at home with their kids, and you want to build your brand locally as being a brand that people can turn to. I don't necessarily need to focus my brand down in Atlanta or down in DC or out in St. Louis, but I want people in my community to know who I am. So what we did is we actually came up with the Connecticut Historical Driving Tour. So people can drive and see 12 different things, and we've got a guide about what they are. They never have to get out of their car. It's not something that you have to walk up to. It's you can go see, here's where the Battle of Southport was. Here's where, Mark Twain wrote some of his stuff. And so we're doing that to give people positive vibes about us trying to give them something to take their time and fill their time. So that's what we're doing.
Tyson, you want to come in?
Yeah, that's gold, Jay. As usual, that is a great idea. I love that. I would say I'm not going to repeat what everyone else just said, but I think that if you stop your ad spending right now, you're going to be in trouble, really in trouble over the summer and the fall. So I wouldn't stop spending money right now when it comes to marketing, because especially if you're doing pay-per-click, Google AdWords, things like that. If people are clicking on your links, it means that they need a lawyer right now. So I think that you're crazy if you don't start advertising right now. So we've increased our spend too. So I think it's important that you do. And if you stop doing it, you're going to have some problems in the next few months if you don't, because you're not going to make cases come in. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And just to show you guys again, how you guys could just model what we did. So we created a multi-step funnel. The first thing I created Monday morning was this book, which got 150 downloads in 3 days. Then after people submitted, I was not expecting immediate, consultations from this, but we did the thank you page so that it was a funnel where it said, almost complete, get a free consultation, schedule it below. And then once we saw how the proof of concept worked, then we decided to spin it off into a product. And this is at smb.team/order-4. If you guys want to take advantage of it, we'll create the whole book for you. But ultimately, yeah, this was made in a matter of a day from something that was really just a random spur of how the heck can I make this obstacle into an opportunity. So I think it's very important because a lot of people are thinking of contracting their marketing spend. What I've done is I've just cut out all the BS spend. I did a very thorough finance review. I usually don't look at my expenses very often, but I did, and there's tons of weird, thank you, Emily, if you're listening right now, for cutting some of the random weird stuff that I just keep paying for no reason. We cut all the stupid stuff, but we're not going to cut the marketing because I'm confident in our ability to nurture leads. And this is, anyone listening is not confident in your ability to nurture leads, now is the time to take any blogs you've written before. Now is the time to take any content you created before and create a 10 to 14 email sequence, upload that into MailChimp or HubSpot or whatever you use, and then start nurturing leads. The reason why the ebook thing worked for me is because people get emails every day from me, no matter what, with links to our YouTube channel, with hundreds of videos on free law firm marketing advice. So I know I can nurture them. If you haven't built your ability to nurture your leads, now's the time to do that. So when we say double your marketing, it doesn't mean just double blindly, like Seth was saying. Don't just blindly go spend more money. What it means is build, whether that's time, sweat, energy, effort, whatever, or money, spend more on the things you've been pushing off in addition to ad spend. Seth, I know you wanted to talk about some SEO tips? I know you talked about the reviews. Did you have any other
No, I mean, that
immediate-
was those. I think we covered most of it. It's just using your time wisely. Time is really valuable, and for most attorneys, I mean, great content wins. Whether it's a great video, whether it's great social, great content for SEO purposes is something we generally don't have time to work on, and there's no better time than now, especially if there's excess capacity of you or your attorneys.
First, obviously, I wanted to say to Seth, I think we're in the same market. So I wanted to kind of put that out there before I started asking questions. For those of us who are primarily criminal focused, and obviously we're all getting hit hard on that, any next steps as it relates to criminal practice that you might have suggestions on?
You know, Jay and I covered this earlier, and I'm happy to have Jay jump in. I think it's in my estimation, it's the area that you need to be most prudent on cash flow, because it is, you know, the plaintiff's practice have cases coming, and when this ends at whatever we want to call ending is, cases will monetize, and they're already in the pipeline. But we have cases frozen right now, and I think that the double whammy of cases not coming in and payment plans not being met are ones where, you know, while I'd love to keep every staff member in every area of practice, it's the one that I think is most is in most jeopardy short term. Jay, I don't know what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, I mean, a criminal practice is like a restaurant, right? You have high turnover. You have a volume. I mean, my volume of criminal practice, you know, is much higher than a PI, because I'm opening and closing clients and cases faster than many other firms. You know, our average case sticks around from anywhere between 3 to 5 months, right? You know, PI 18 to 24 months. So, you know, we've got to have a higher number of leads coming in. And they have dipped for sure. You know, our revenues are down almost 90% in the first 10 days. But you also have to be cognizant of when you are cutting, where you're cutting, and make sure that you're making, you know, intelligent cuts and not emotional cuts. Because if you just go with the emotion, say, I'm shutting down everybody, everyone's gone. Then, you know, once this ramps back up, and it will come back, you know, you could be almost in a worse position for you. You got to think of your business, your practice as a person, and what do you need to do to keep that person, you know, maybe you're on life support now, right? But when you're on life support, you make sure that they have steady oxygen. You know, you don't say, well, I'm turning off the oxygen for a couple of weeks and see what happens. So, you know, identify the core things that you need to do to keep the business alive. Focus on those, and I think, you know, you'll be able to weather the storm.
Awesome. All right, let's see who we got next. ECs. Okay, let's see. ECs just began working with us, actually.
Hello.
You're live.
Thanks so much for this webinar. It's been really great. I just wanted to get an opinion. So I am thinking of launching kind of a 7-day competition to just get more visibility and to get people focusing less on coronavirus. So this is kind of targeting the people who are tired of seeing corona posts. So it'll be unrelated to immigration, which is the area of practice in, and it'll intentionally be unrelated to COVID things. And just kind of a fun thing to get interacting with people and give as rewards a free consultation, and potentially, depending on how many people participate, give a big chunk of money off of a client's case. What are thoughts on that? Some of the people I've talked to have said no, but I want to hear from.
Let's.
Yes.
I think Mike should chime in, because Mike has put on the biggest event in the law firm, you know, niche with the Game Changer Summit, and I'm sure when he was creating, it's really a movement that he created. And then Jay, I saw you wanted to go. Mike, what do you have about kind of creating a movement and then figuring out how to tie that into your actual bottom line?
You know, so I like the idea of a contest. I don't love the idea of the prizes being a sales grab, like a consultation or a discounted service. I think that, you know, that can come across as potentially self-serving. Prizes should be things that, you know, if there's a certain need in the community, maybe it's a donation, maybe it's, you know, covering certain like meals or something like that. Let's say meals for a month for a family, something like that. I like the idea of just simply giving, but if they see it as, let me compete for an appointment or a consultation, then I think then it comes across as lawyer advertising. I think the best marketing is what doesn't look like marketing. So it's always leading with value. This is a tremendous opportunity to take off like the sales hat and instead focus on right now with any type of marketing, more importantly around like community and service. Like Ross Salino in New York sent me some ads that he started running, and he's somebody who'd weathered all sorts of storms over the years with the recession, with 9/11, all these different things. And he was so calm and collected. And he said that lawyers need to pull all the ambulance chasing stuff off and instead focus on like how they're here to help their community, what they're doing, whether they're doing food drives, you know, whatever it is, that they're available, that they're there to help and that they're there to support. I think that's the best part, the best way to be in the conversation right now. Rather than trying to say like, well, I really want you to book an appointment. You know, I think you will get that as a byproduct of putting out great content and providing value and support for people. That is a tough mindset to have in the sense that it's not immediate. It's a long game approach versus a short term. But it's what we are seeing is most successful for the firms that we're working with right now. So those are the ones that have, they're saying their phone's still ringing a lot, are the ones that have a line that's a quarter mile long at the food drive that they're supporting right now. That's what's leading to that result.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can pipe in on that just a little bit, you know, one of the things that I talked about a little earlier, one of the biggest challenges that, you know, when it comes to social, is that lawyers have this tendency to post, and I pardon the language, they like to post lawyer nerd shit, and the rest of the world doesn't really care about lawyer nerd shit. What they want to talk about is the stuff that's going on in their community. You know, hey, our animal shelter person has gotten sick. Who can watch these animals while they recuperate, right? Those are the types of things that matter to the community. So you can position yourself as a community caretaker, and that's going to drive more value. And you're not necessarily going to get a 1-for-1 or a 5-for-1 client out of it. But you're thinking, and remember, we're in this practice for decades, right? You know, you make a relationship now, 20 years from now, that could be a monster case that comes your way. So you got to think about it along those terms and not think of it as, you know, I put in money, I get something out necessarily. I love Michael's approach to, you know, you're building your brand, you're part of the community, and that's really where your focus should be, because he's right on with that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. And then let's see if we have anyone else. I know that we are past our time. We wanted to give you guys some bonus time. Okay, well, looks like we've answered everyone's questions, unless anybody has a final question. Oh, looks like we got one new message. Thank you to all of you. And thank you guys. We still have 150 people on here. And, you know, I'm so honored that you guys spent all this time with us. And our mission, I wish I could pull up the email I sent to everyone. The mission here was really just to inspire confidence in all of the listeners. You know, that is really the main objective here. And you've heard so many strategies from people who are managing, you know, many employees across many practice areas. So I hope you took notes like a crazy mad artist like I did, with papers spewing all over my desk right now. So again, if you guys want any of those productivity sheets I sent, you know, just email bill@smbteam.com, and we'll send an email afterwards with follow-ups for all the speakers. Stay great, everyone. Stay strong. Do not contract. This will pass. And fight on. Thank you, everyone.